In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the brake master cylinder on your Toyota Tacoma. This will be located in the engine bay. Let's get started. Before beginning this job, we're going to lay down some towels under the master cylinder so we don't make a big mess. The other thing we're going to do is remove the cap. We're going to remove the filter out of the middle. Using a fluid extraction device, we're going to remove the old brake fluid. I'm going to put the filter back in and the cap back on. On this side, we have a connector. We're going to push on the tab in the back, pull straight out, and remove the connector. Our car has a manual transmission, so we have one line coming off the front going to our slave cylinder in the car. We're going to pinch this clamp, pull it back, I'm going to make sure this hose is loose on the fitting. We're not going to remove it yet, but we want it loose. Using a 12mm wrench, we're going to crack the two lines free on the side of the master cylinder. We're going to remove the two lines off the side. I have a few plugs that I'm going to try to put over the brake lines to try and not lose any fluid or just keep the mess to a minimal. I'm going to pull that line out and put that cap on. I installed two rubber caps onto the lines just to keep any dirt or debris or extra fluid coming out from them. I'm going to remove this front clutch line. I'm going to put a rubber cap in there and then tuck it up under this harness. Using a 12mm socket, we're going to remove the two nuts for the master cylinder, holding it to the booster. Remove the two nuts. We're going to pull the master cylinder straight forward. Remove the master cylinder, pulling it straight out. Attached to the master cylinder, I have two fittings with a piece of clear hose stuffed into each one. We're going to remove the cap off the reservoir, pull the filter out. Remove the cap off the reservoir. We're going to fill our reservoir with fluid. We're going to go till we hit about the max line. I'm going to remove the filter out of the reservoir. We're going to install our tubes. into the fluid inside of the reservoir. And we're going to use a screwdriver in the back, pushing on the piston, cycling the fluid and bleeding the master cylinder. See the bubbles as we push. Do this 10 to 15 times or until all of the big bubbles are out of the lines. That right there looks pretty good. Using a rag, I'm going to wipe down where our O-ring is going to seat and just clean any of the dirt or dust out. Install the master cylinder. Make sure it's installed onto the pole inside of the booster. And then push straight back. Install the nuts. Snug them down. We'll torque them in just a little bit. We're going to remove the rear fitting. And install the hose. I'm going to remove that rear fitting. I'm going to pull my line over, take that rubber cap off that I have installed. And install the line into the master. Trying to do this somewhat quickly. Recommend having a rag nearby as the brake fluid will make these lines slippery and it's easier to grab if you have some cloth. Do the same thing for the front brake line. Be sure to not drip any brake fluid on your paint. If you do, quickly clean it off with some water and a clean rag. And I'm just snugging down the nut with a rag over it so it's easier to grab. Take out all our old pieces. Snug down the fittings. Don't get them super tight yet. We're gonna have to crack them very soon. You just wanna make sure there's no leaks. If in between doing the rear line and then trying to do the front line, you need to add fluid, go ahead and do so, but we don't want the master running dry. I'm going to install the filter and the cap, install the connector, push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull, make sure it's locked on. We're going to pull our clutch hose down. Same process, we're going to try and do this nice and quick once we pull this plug off. Pinch the clamp, pull it back into place. Make sure it's fully seated. These towels are completely soaked, so we're gonna grab some new ones before we go through bleeding it. Torque the master cylinder nuts to 9 foot-pounds. Torque the brake line to 13 foot-pounds. If you can't get a torque wrench on it, do the best you can. With an assistant in the car, you're going to have them push on the brake pedal. Go ahead. Once they push on it, we're going to go to one of the lines, crack it free until you see fluid come out. Once they hit the floor, they'll let you know. Once they hit the floor, close the line, and then repeat the same process on the rear line. Let up. Go ahead and push. One more time. One more time. And just one more time. Once you're done bleeding those lines, you can remove your towels and go through and do a 4-wheel brake bleed using a clean rag. We're going to clean off the master cylinder and the cap. We're going to get rid of any of the dirt or dust. Remove the cap for the master cylinder. On this cap, it'll tell you which fluid to use. On our cap, it says .3 fluid, so that's what we will use in this car. Inside of the reservoir, there's going to be a filter. We're going to pull this filter up and out. I'm going to place this on the cap. We're going to use a fluid extractor to remove all of the fluid out of the master cylinder. Empty it into a collection bucket. Be sure no brake fluid gets on your paint. Remove as much fluid as you can from the master cylinder. Install the filter back into the reservoir. Using .3 brake fluid, we're going to fill our master cylinder. We're going to fill this to the max line. It'll be indicated on the side of the reservoir. With the reservoir at the max line, we're going to put our top back on and move to our first wheel. In between each of our wheels, we're going to come back to this master cylinder and we're going to check the fluid level. We want to keep this close to the max. Between every wheel, come back and check if you need to add fluid. If you need to add fluid, do the same process. Remove the cap, fill the brake fluid until it hits the max line, reinstall the cap, and you're good to go. We're going to start on our first wheel. This will be the right rear. We're going to remove the bleeder cap. We're going to grab a bleeder bottle with a hose and a fitting on it. We're going to attach this to the car or put it on the ground somewhere near us. We're going to install the hose onto the end of the bleeder. We're going to have our assistant pump up the brakes. Once they're holding, go ahead and open that bleeder. Once they hit the floor, they'll let you know. We'll close the bleeder down, have them pump it again. Go ahead. Go ahead. Repeat this process until you have nice clear fluid with no bubbles coming out. We have nice clean fluid with no bubbles coming out of the hose. We'll remove our bottle, spray the area down using some brake parts cleaner. Give it a wipe with a clean rag. Get away any of the wetness so you don't mistake it for a leak later. Install the bleeder cap back on, and we'll move to our next wheel, the left front. Don't forget to check the master cylinder reservoir. On the left front wheel, we're going to pop the bleeder off, install our bottle, go ahead and pump them up. Go ahead. And we had nice clear fluid with no bubbles come out. So we'll remove our bottle, clean the area. Install the bleeder cap, and then we'll move to the left rear wheel. Don't forget to check your master cylinder reservoir in between each wheel. On the left rear wheel, we're going to remove the bleeder cap. Install our bleeder bottle. Go ahead. We had nice, clean, clear fluid with no bubbles come out of our hose. Remove the bottle. Spray and wipe the area. Install the bleeder cap, and we'll move to the right front wheel. Onto our last wheel, the right front. Remove the bleeder cap. Install the bottle. Go ahead and pump them up. Go ahead. And we had nice clean fluid with no bubbles. Clean the area, wipe it down, reinstall the bleeder cap. Now that we're done bleeding the brakes, we're going to do one last check. Be sure our level is good, and then give the area a wipe down. Get away any of the old fluid or any fluid that you did spill. And you're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. the only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.